Founders, welcome back to the 0 to 5,000 podcast, where we obsess over the convergence of human potential and business results. Today, our hosts Drew McClure and Jordan Mitchell have another insightful conversation for you. So let's jump right in.
Okay, founders, welcome back to the podcast. Today, we are joined by Aaron Gaynor. Aaron is the founder and CEO of Eager Plumbers, Electricians, and HVAC Technicians, a $75 million and growing home service business serving Central and Southwest Ohio. A master plumber, Aaron started the business that would become Eco in 2007, after losing everything when his first construction plumbing business failed as a result of the housing market crash of 2007. So today, to tell us about his story and his journey with Eco is Aaron. Aaron, thank you for being here.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So let's go back to the beginning. How did you even get into this world?
So I started in the trades in 1997. It feels forever ago, but not forever ago, how fast time goes, right? I graduated high school in 1997. I was working at Value City Furniture. It's a pretty big furniture store, but I don't know if they're all around the country or not, but loading semi trucks at night, second shift, while I was still going to school. I graduated, and then a friend of mine, good friend of mine, his brother-in-law, worked for Ferguson Enterprises, which is a plumbing wholesale company. And he said, hey, I've got a guy that's looking for some young people to get into the trades and plumbing. And I said, all right, I don't really know what the plumbers really do that much, but it was a first shift job. I was making like $14 an hour at Value City, which is pretty good back then, load semi trucks, for a job about $7.50, but it was first shift. It was Monday through Friday. So I took the job, and then I never left the trades. And so that's how I got into the trades, just randomly through that conversation, and just looking for a change and looking for something that I could potentially build on. Didn't really know what it would become. And then from there, I moved into getting my master plumber's license, as they used to call it. A lot cooler than just licensed contractor these days. I really think they should bring that back. It makes you feel better with the master plumber license. But so I did that, and my buddy that got me into the trades through his brother-in-law. We started a plumbing company. A few years later, after we learned the trade, working the trade, and like most people that are technicians that start their own businesses because they think they can do it better than their boss. Right?
Sure.
So, and that's really the old E-Myth. If you've ever read the book E-Myth, or any listeners ever read the book E-Myth, I mean, it's total E-Myth revisited from start to end of this in some capacity. So we started that business, and it grew to about $3.5 million in new construction plumbing.
Wow.
We were doing light commercial, new homes during that time. Anybody that was around knows that it felt like they were going to build houses forever. At least in Central Ohio, it did. I mean, we were just building houses all day around here, and strip malls and all types of stuff. Very growing area for us. So we grew that to about $3.5 million, and then slowly in 2006 started to feel the slowdown. We had all our eggs in one. Really, a big part of our business was in a company called Syntex Homes at that time. They were one of the bigger builders in the country, and they decided that they were going to pull out of Columbus and sell off their land. And basically we just got cut quickly. And that was probably close to 60% of our revenue, roughly. And when that happened, the cars just started to fall for us too. I couldn't find replacement that. Other builders that we had started leaving and pulling out to Dominion Homes, which is a big builder here. None of these builders exist anymore. I think Syntex ended up being bought by Pulte at some point. But so that collapse started happening. We tried to figure it out. But at the end of the day, we were only as good as the builders we had in the business they had, because we didn't really own a business. We just had a tax ID, and we were basically a contractor that was doing business for them. And so once we lost that business, which was really rough. It felt like the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life at that point in time. I've been through some rough times in my life, but that one really felt, shameful, felt disappointed. First off, I lost jobs for trade people that I really cared about and wanted to do good for the trades, because like I said, I'm a tradesperson at heart. And then I lost my house, I lost my car, I lost everything I had at that point in time. I was 28 years old, single dad with a 3-year-old son, ended up back at my mom's house on her couch in her 2-bedroom apartment. I was even on check systems. Have you ever heard of check systems? the check system is where they won't even give you a bank account because you owe money, and I had IRS debt and other things that I had to shore up. So at 28 years old, this is where I'm at, right? From a couple of years ago, I think I'm on top of the world as this great contractor running this plumbing business, right? And new construction, to now bankrupt, sitting and he's sleeping on my mom's couch at night. And I looked at my son one night when we were sleeping on the couch there, and I held him up, and he had these little Spider-Man pajamas on him. I held him up, and I just looked at him. I said, I promise this won't be your life. I'm gonna figure. And that morning I woke up and got to work. And 17 years later, here we are.
Wow. What was the first thing you did that next morning?
Made some phone calls. I got up the next morning. I called my sister. I said, hey, I know I can do this. I believe in it. I know the trades are good. I made some mistakes. I need some help getting up and going off the ground. So I went over. I talked to her and her ex-husband now, but then, and they loaned me some money, $50, open a bank account just to get started. They started doing some other things to help me out credit-wise and stuff. I called up my good friend that I grew up with and had worked with me at the other company too, Braun Bocook, who's a service manager and sales now. He's doing a lot of sales for us now. But I called him up. I said, hey, man, I'm going to give this a run. Will you help me out? He said, you got it, man. I'm here for you. So he jumped in and started helping me just to get some momentum off some stuff. And then so he said, all right, cool. I got there. I called up some of the builders and some guys that I'd done some work for in new construction, even though I know I didn't want to be in new construction, but that was what I knew. And there was still work, right? Work. And I called them up and I said, hey, can I do some work for you guys? I'll warranty the old work from the other company on my own time, at night, weekends, whatever. I'll just take care of it. Not that I was obligated, because after the bankruptcy, it's pretty much clear of that, right? But at the same time, it was the right thing to do, and they were going to give me work and it would save them money, because they would have to end up paying somebody to do it, and they're going to give me work. And so they said, yeah, we'll do that. Let's get some work, and we'll get you going. Because a lot of the custom builders I worked for, I still had good relationships. Like, nothing was really wrong with them. It was just all the production building is where it went wrong. So then that happened. I went over to one of the old supply houses and talked to a guy, Bud, who ran a supply house here that actually lost a decent amount of money in the bankruptcy on my side. And he said, hey, you know what? I'll give you an account, give you some work. You're not going to get any credit, but I'll give you enough to come back and forth and help you out and get you some decent prices, help you get back off your feet. I think he kind of believed in me. And I'd come back in and bring parts back in every day. I'd bring my fittings back in and recount them and trade them back in for money and do stuff for a while there. And he let me do that. So I'm very grateful to him. And then last but not least, I picked up the phone and called my son's mom. And I said, hey, so what I'm going to do, this is the situation I'm in, which she already knew, right? And I said, I can't get child support change payment. I have no work. I don't have work. I have no money right now. I'm trying my best. I called child support up and I said to them before, I said, hey, I need to do some child support. I don't have a job. I need to adjust this payment from where I used to be to now. And they basically hung up on me and just said, sorry, sir, you need 3 years of previous work history to change any child support payments. Other than that, we wish you the best.
Wow.
Told me, this is when child support, I think we're really, really aggressively hard on people. I don't know what it's like today because I'm past that journey, but they basically told me no. And I said, well, I don't even have a job. I'm trying to figure this out. And they said no. So I called her up. I said, look, I'm going to figure this out. I will live off whatever's left. I'll make sure the child support payments are paid. I know there's a couple they're a little backdated then. I said, I'll catch them up, get it figured out. I said, but I'm going to make a deal with you. If I get back on my feet and I figure this out and I don't go back and make any changes, will you never come after me for any more child support in the future? And I'll promise you that I'll pay for all of our son's college. I'll buy his first car and everything. You just got to give me a chance to get back on my feet. And she said, oh, okay, let's do it. She agreed to do it. And I'd known her too, like years before. We grew up kind of around each other, younger. We didn't really date till later on in life, a little bit later in life. And so she said, let's do it. And she never came back after me ever again. And I bought my son's first car. And I'm paying for all of his college today at ASU. So I guess to answer your question to those, I know I told a lot there, but those are immediate activities I took right away to get up off the feet. And then from there, started figuring out how am I going to actually build a business that was worth a damn at some point in time, right? So
Wow.
that's I guess the quick of a lot of things that happened there, but those were all part of the steps that took to get back on the feet right away.
Well done, man. That is so remarkable. The resilience and the jumping into action is so profound. How did you overcome some of those initial hard feelings of shame or, discouragement or something like that?
Well, I definitely felt like a loser. I mean, to be straight up, like, it wasn't like I didn't feel like a loser. Um, but I guess to me, the idea was like, I still have something to prove to myself and for my son. And I didn't grow up with a lot of money. I mean, I have across from me right now in my office, I have my original Carhartts on the wall from 1997 in a frame. And then I have a food stamp up there for anybody that knows what a food stamp or a food coupon, but we call them food stamps in the little book when I was a kid. And I remember going to the grocery store, the food stamps, right, to get groceries. So I think for me, it's like I already knew what it was like to be poor, not have a lot. And so there was really only one way, and that was to go up, right? So
Yeah.
overcoming that idea wasn't real hard. It was more feeling a little bit in an industry, in a space where you felt like you were doing something. You felt kind of shameful. Of course you would. You cost other people jobs and you lost houses. You did a lot of things, but I knew the best thing I could do is get back to work and rebuild and build opportunities. And some of the people, suppliers that I did work that lost, that now have made a lot of money working with me today.
Wow. So inspiring, man. When you started to not just be self-employed this second time around, but started to build a business around you, what did you do differently?
Well, I think first was a mindset, and the second one was responsibility. I think it's so important. I reflected and I took responsibility. I decided to not blame the market, the crash, all that other stuff. I said I did not own a business. I did not know business. I did not know business the way I should. I didn't know marketing. I didn't know sales. I was a plumber. I knew how to plumb. I knew how to run production basically on job sites. I didn't understand the financial aspects of these things. My buddy and I, we just worked, right, and did jobs and sent invoices in, right? Like that's what we did. So I decided to really work on personal development and started just, very fortunate at this time, right? Audiobooks were starting to pick up in general. So you're starting to be able to find more audiobooks to listen to, podcasts. There were still some basic podcast stuff, but I wouldn't say podcasts, YouTube videos. So podcast came a little later, obviously, but I'd find little YouTube videos about sales or marketing or business or anything I could, and I'd listen to it. I stumbled across a great book that changed my life forever. It was Think and Grow Rich. I read the book Think and Grow Rich. I've read it 8 times from front to back, and I've listened to it and picked it up many times. I literally have it sitting right back here still, so on my shelf.
I've got it behind me too.
You got it behind you too? All right.
Yeah.
And I read that book and I was like, this is a blueprint to success. I don't have one. I've never had a mentor. I've never had anybody lead me in any way. And I said, this book seems to have clues and information I have no clue about. So I just decided to actually just believe everything the book had to say. And I just did it. I literally wrote down everything it said. I did auto suggestions. I still do them today, every single morning. I did auto suggest. I wrote down my definition of purpose in life. I did it all. I did it all. How about that? And because I'm like, where else do I have to go right now? I just did it. And then just kept working on more self-development from there, listening to anything I could, right across, obviously, you heard me talk about E-Myth. That came later in life with that book. Many other books. I mean, probably hundreds of books, to be honest with you, at some point throughout the journey of either reading them or audioing them. And audio was really my way to go, just plugging in headphones in between job sites, between calls, or at home, or when I picked up running a little bit more around that time in my early 30s. And I'd listen to anything I could when I was running. So that was it. I just fed the mind with as many things I did. Really got into some Tony Robbins stuff. At some point 10 years ago, I did a little Tony Robbins. I went and went to business mastery. That's how my CFO and I started off his first day 10 years ago now. 10 years ago now.
Wow.
His first day was us at a Tony Robbins mastery event together. So I think a little bit of all that. And then I just, from there, was, trying to connect with the right people and put the right foundation in place. But to the principal, what I guess I said was, I just took responsibility for all the things I didn't know and decided to go learn as many things as I can through personal development, whether that was how to develop myself personally, professionally, and reinvent myself. And then also, what does marketing look like? What does logistics look like? What does sales strategy look like? Understanding P&L and finance and cash and balance sheets and cash flow. I don't know how else to really answer. I guess that's it. And then just looking for opportunity in the market that I didn't think existed. I was Googling stuff, looking for what's new technology in plumbing, in the plumbing space. What are things that are out there that I'm not aware of? And I came across an organization in Australia at that time called Plumbers, and they were doing a lot of water conservation and energy and solar, and WaterSense was getting ready to be big here in the United States at that time. There wasn't a lot of water regulations yet on things, so I really dove into that, and that's where I started with the name. Came up with the name Eco Plumbers at some point. When I first started back, it was called Phoenix Plumbing for all the reasons, right? Phoenix, right? And then there were some iterations of trying to stumble along, and then finally came across the idea of Eco Plumbers. And our main initiative then was WaterSense, tankless water heaters, paperless systems, and other things that just people weren't doing. And I just found a niche in an area that wasn't being attacked in home service at this point, especially in plumbing, and I went after it.
Just unbelievable, man. Out of all the personal development stuff, and I know this will be hard to answer, but don't think of it like a final answer, just the first one that comes to mind. What sticks out first in terms of having the biggest impact on you? A concept, a tool that actually changed something for the better for you?
Writing definitions of purpose in life.
How so?
Look, I knew that I had the will to do something because I proved my definition was part of it was my son telling him I'm going to do this thing. And then it was defining that to be more than just the thing for him. Who am I going to actually be in this world? And why does it actually matter to me to do that? So that every day I did not want to get up, I would get up no matter what, and I would do it. And I think that was the most powerful thing for me, is really identifying this kind of, lower income kid, like in the trades. I was dyslexic. I mean, I am dyslexic. You can't not be undyslexic. So I'm dyslexic, had some learning disability stuff when I was younger, got in trouble. I was a punk. I got in a lot of trouble when I was younger in school, all these things. And but I kept stumbling forward, and the idea of the Matthew principle, right? You start coming forward. The more you move forward, the more you gain, as I stay behind. And I just kept stumbling forward. I think finally sitting down and saying, this is who I am. This is where I'm going. This is what I stand for and stand against. And then really supporting that with a benchmark number that I wanted to grow this business to within a decade or a decade, really wrote down a final decade number. And then it just gave me a purpose and the will to then just came with the will to do it and then just got to work.
So beautiful.
So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah.
There's so many other tools that had to happen, but actually identifying the number and who I want to be and then going to work to create that was the most important thing I ever did.
Was it difficult or obvious how to answer that question for yourself?
It wasn't. It was hard for a while. I had to think about it for a long time. I thought about it a lot. I knew some of it, but I really wanted to have you ever read the book Think and Grow Rich? They kind of tell you how to do it. So there's kind of a model in there of do these, answer these questions, and kind of get your definitions of purpose, as they call it, right? It took a little time. I wouldn't say it happened right away. Took some time, thought about it a lot. And I did a 10-day RPM program for Tony Robbins had a long time ago. It was on CD, right?
Yeah.
I did that. And then around that same time, other things started coming together. And then finally I was like, I think I know what I want to do here. And I sat down and I wrote it. I have it Yeah, I have it in right here in my cabinet. I wrote it all in one sitting.
Wow.
And it's never changed yet. Now I think it'll probably change as next chapters of life evolve, but I never changed from that day. Once I actually wrote it, it's weird because like this thing you think about, and then when I actually sat down to write it, it's kind of it was like bizarro, I guess, in a sense. I don't know how to explain it. Maybe you can use God if you want to, infinite intelligence, whatever it is. I don't know. It just kind of came flowing through me and just wrote a page, and that was it. And I said, that's it. This is it. And then I just said, all right, you don't need to think about it anymore. Let's just get to work.
So beautiful. All right. So if you're talking to an audience member right now who's where you were when you were on the couch at your sister's house, what do you tell them? What's the encouragement? They feel lost. They feel stuck.
I think we all want to feel sorry for ourselves at times. I mean, we still go through that, right? Everybody. I imagine you do too at times, right? In your business and life, right? And I still do today. I'm a human. So it's not like this definite purpose solved everything in this world, but it solved a lot and moved me direction. So I guess, one is like, you just can't feel sorry for yourself for that long. Everybody has the right to feel sorry for yourself for a little bit, right? But it's just, and I think action is so important. I think sometimes we think about things more than they need to be, and we just need to go to work and get action. And I think in that moment, I decided to just take action, and I didn't have any of that definition of purpose at that moment. I didn't have any of that other plan. That came with the action. I took action. I picked up the phone. I made the calls. I solved my problems I could solve. I handled the things that were in my control, and I got to work on those immediately. So I guess I would say anybody's just feeling in that spot right now. It's like, you have to take some action now. You could do it right now. You listen to this podcast, you could stop listening to this thing and go do something right now. It takes action to move your life forward, right? Or tomorrow, you wake up, you say, you know what? Tomorrow's the day. No more nonsense. I'm making calls. I'm going to solve my problems, and I'm going to own them, and I'm not going to hide from them, and I'm going to go out in front of them. And, if you're embarrassed about things that have happened in life, you know what? Just be okay with that, because what happened to me is, I believe what happened to me, when I reflected, I didn't think about it at the time, reflected, is that my goals were bigger than my fears, and I didn't care anymore. I just wanted to get them solved. And I used to let my dyslexia, the bankruptcy, I think these things were like all a realm of these things that I would allow, not coming from a family with resources, whatever story I want to tell myself, right? So I think it's just action. I really do. I'm breaking it down to that. It's like, don't feel too sorry for yourself for too long, and do something. Do anything. Write something down and go do it.
So good. Man, this has been such an inspiring conversation, man. Like, your story is super powerful. I want to thank you for that. And we're not done. I'm just commenting on that.
Yeah.
When did you start to see the new business that became Eco? When was its first big step that you were like, holy crap, this thing's working?
So it took a long time, right? It's one of those things, like, you do have to have patience too. So I think that's something I did learn. Persistency. When I read the book, it's like, I am not scared to work. That was never up for debate. I've been working my whole life. I was 15 years old, started working, helping my mom pay bills, all types of stuff, right? And 2 younger sisters. So working was never up for debate for me. So when I know we were just in the middle of it there, so kind of coming back to it, I guess, it took years to really realize see like, hey, this is actually doing something, because it took a long time to kind of start to build back up any cash, build credit. I had no credit, right? So credit score was destroyed. Trying to balance the resources of borrowing and using my sister and her husband's credit versus building cash, building my own. So there was a lot of stuff there. I couldn't get any bank money. I mean, there was a lot of stuff I couldn't do after my bankruptcy that, hopefully other people would be able to do, but I didn't have anything to leverage. So it took me years, and I knew that, and I committed to that, and I knew it was just going to take me years to do it. So I would say it took probably about 7 to 8 years before I was like, we're starting to build some momentum here. Like, things are starting to be real. I'm actually starting to build a little bit of a service business here that's building some momentum. I'm going to start getting some marketing here, start do some things. And then about So about 7 or 8 years ago, about 7, 8 years in is when I started feeling like that. Finally broke 1 million. Like
Wow.
finally, was like, oh man, finally breaking $1 million in revenue. Took a long time when I used to have a company that was doing like 3.5. Obviously, it didn't matter because it went bankrupt. But the principle, like to try to get there, took so much longer to get there again. Because I wasn't going to do it through construction and contracts. I wanted to do it through homeowner service calls, which is a lower average sale, and you need a lot of people to see, right?
Yeah.
I knew it was going to take a lot longer, but the long time and persistency to that would be worth it in the long run because I actually had a brand that had value proposition in the marketplace. And then so 10 years ago, about 11 years ago, actually, I met Mike, who ended up being our CFO and partner in the business now, at a party that neither one of us wanted to be at. So we just started talking. And I was like, what do you do? And he's like, I'm in finance. I was like, oh, really? I said, I want to learn more about finance. I'm trying to keep growing my business. Again, that's what I'm telling you. I'm just out trying to learn, right? And he's like, oh, yeah, really? What do you want to learn about? And I just kind of talked a little bit there. And he's like, oh, what do you want to grow your business to? I'm told him a plumber. I was like, $100 million. And he was like, oh, okay. He's like, well, where are you at now? I was like, a little over 1 million. It's like, oh, okay. But I think it kind of got him for a minute because he's like, here's this guy that's like talking about growing a business to $100 million, $1 million. He's obviously curious. Mike was working at Victoria's Secret, and he had just finished night school, getting his master's degree. So I think he's kind of still, he's still kind of young, and curious. So he helped put together some modeling. We met for a little bit about some stuff. He definitely taught me a lot of, financial things that I hadn't really, known because I didn't go to college for all that and have a financial background and some other stuff. But I knew enough to get myself in trouble at this point still. But so he came on. He ended up coming on, and now we're here together 10 years. And he had became a partner probably 4 years ago in the business, roughly. So that was a big move. And I think once I got him on the team and knew that, like that's I think kind of started to feel like, okay, we got something going here. I got a really good, stable person that can help me financially, with the finance part of the book, start modeling, helping negotiate certain things that we can work together on, and go from there. So I think that was a big opportunity. And I knew I wanted somebody like that on the team. So it wasn't like that accidentally. It was accidentally in the conversation. It wasn't accidentally in the idea that I wanted to hire somebody in that role, because I already been saving for a couple of years to hire somebody for that position. And I wanted to make sure that I had, it sounds crazy, I don't know why, but I wanted to have 3 years of their salary pre-saved before I hired them.
Wow.
And so I had saved up enough money for somebody in that position before I ever hired them.
That is amazing. How long did it take to go from that 1 million mark to the 75 million mark you're at now?
10 years.
And it took about 10 years to go from 0 to 1?
Yeah.
What was the difference, man? That's a big jump in 10 years.
Yeah. Like I said, I think we finally had built momentum. I've been saving, so when I'm saying the business went growing, but I was still saving lots of money. I was building up stuff. I was learning things. I found Service Titan, which became which is giant today. But at that time, they were the first really paperless platform for operating for home service. I had met Ara, who's the CEO of that company today. I think they just got evaluated at I don't know, 11 billion or something. But I met him back when he was my rep. So I got on this software that was giving me the ability to be paperless, create estimates and things that nobody else was really doing yet. About that time, I joined the Nextstar Network, which is a home service network for contractors, which then I joined them, and we started learning more about home service modeling, more of the KPIs, sales training. I joined that network and went all in on that with them, and basically said, if that's what you think I should do, I'll do it. So I think one of the things I did well at times, to your point, to change a different, here was I think sometimes we all want to think that we are smarter than things that are given to us. And I think I just was I'm too dumb to know. I'm just going to do it. If this is Think You Grow Rich says do this, I'm just going to do that. If my business coach says that this is what I should do, because he had owned HVAC and plumbing businesses before, large ones, and this is what he said I should do, I said, I'm just going to do that. Why am I going to debate it? What I've always seen in the network in my own network there, like through that industry and other places, like people are like, well, I want to change it a little bit this way and a little bit that way and a little bit this way. Everybody wants to be overly unique. And I end up going back and like, they haven't gone anywhere because they're spending more time fiddling with it than just doing it. And I think that's what I just did is I just did it. I got the next star coach and I just dove in and did the things they told me to do. And then, obviously the flywheel started building, right? The momentum was building. I found the water sense I had mentioned earlier. That momentum, tankless water heaters were taking off pretty big. Water sense was becoming the thing. And I think also I was in a city in a market that I can't, say that everything is just what I did. A lot of it was, but sometimes you're in the right place at the right time. I think it was in a city, Central Ohio, which was growing still, had a lot of people moving in. The market was still strong here. We didn't have a lot of problems. Like, I think there was some of that, and there wasn't giant plumbing companies or home service companies that were owning everything. So I had an opportunity to really throttle that up when they weren't. And, I just, I was able to, I guess, for lack of another term, just beat them at a game that they had been doing for a long time that they never rethought. And I was rethinking it, and I just beat them basically at that game. And I wouldn't call it real blue ocean. This isn't blue ocean by any means. This is red ocean, but it's kind of like added a few little things in the red ocean that may be kind of bluish. Blue, well, if everybody understands, most people I think understand that, probably listen blue ocean first, red ocean. But I just added a couple little things there because it's not like the whole world changed. There's not like brought up with a phone that never existed, right? In the market. Right. So I added a couple little things and I went all in on them and I just tackled them and went after them. And then it just built momentum.
That's so good. What's the current hurdle that the business is trying to overcome today?
There's probably a lot. There's a lot, but so we went from plumbing. So we went vertical and horizontal growth in the last couple of years. We were plumbing only business, plumbing and drain and sewer business. We added HVAC, we added electrical, right? So those things of adding service lines for new revenue growth as we hit it. Market expansion, we've greenfielded and acquired some businesses one business recently in greenfield into other markets. And I think just learning how to operate that has been out of COVID, coming out of COVID, where it just felt like home services was just booming, right? Like you really couldn't do anything wrong. It felt like in that time, at least for a home service standpoint or essential services. I mean, we grew 70% during COVID, right? So we attacked that market time. And now I think it's just really trying to understand the next evolution of like running a larger business from being really a frontline kind of entrepreneurial. I don't know what to use there. Maybe I'll say soldier, for lack of another kind of like soldier, on to, hey, I really got to understand how to run this business. I'm reinventing myself again. I think I'm in another chapter of reinventing myself and the organization to allow it to become, maybe a $250 million business one day, right? But I think that's it. Just how do you run this business up and down? How do you still serve your communities properly? And it's not just all about the numbers. And how do you really make sure that people feel supported and wanted in your organization when it gets bigger? And I think that's a challenge a lot of entrepreneurs, I believe, at least that I've met and done, is that business scales, you get further away from a lot of the things that you were part of or the relationships. It's just hard. I think it's hard for the employees that have been with you, and it's hard for you too. You're gonna find that balance, and I think those are some of the challenges. I mean, authentically, that's some of the things that are up against it. Even for me personally, right? It's like certain things I love to do on the ground, on the trenches, that just I can't do. I don't say can't do. You can do whatever you want in your business. It's not always the right thing to do. How about that? Because you do got to give other people opportunity, and I've made a lot of mistakes of going here and jumping all the way back down and, back down and getting in there and getting after instead of trying to work through the leadership and down, because I know that I can go to the front line and connect with all of our field technicians tomorrow in a way that most people can't. But that's also not sustainable and scalable either all the time. So I got to find that line. So hopefully that makes sense what I'm saying. Maybe people can relate to that, that have scaled their business, whatever industry it is, probably some, or going through that or thinking about that as you do get to this point, because these are all things you hope and dream to grow your big business. into. And then, it's a different beast. It's a different relationship.
Yeah. So good. All right. Final question. This can be personal or it can be business, but what's got you most excited right now?
I think I'm most excited right now. I think similar to what I just said, is just trying to find the new Aaron Gaynor, I guess, in this organization, in the next path. Like, I've spent 17 years of my life head down and just working, and I enjoy every minute of it. I don't regret things. Obviously I think I evaluate things or reflect on things, but they're all decisions I made. It's like, what is the next chapter of running this business look like? What's the next chapter for me? I've spent the last year spending a lot more time on personal health and fitness than I probably have. I've always been a runner, but I've really been going to the gym more. I wrote a goal to be in the best shape of my life by the end of 45. I just turned 46, and I benched 315 pounds right before I turned 46. So I think some of those is just really reflecting on personal health. Spending some time. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the chapter of my son, graduating college here soon and spending different time with him in life. I'm excited about the future for a lot of people in this organization. If we do the things we want to do, a lot of people should, make some money along the way. And I love watching people grow in the trades. I love giving jobs to people in the trades. And I know that's a lot of answers to one, but I don't know if there's just one thing that I can just say that's the only thing I'm excited about right now. And I think some of it's still finding my way. I'm excited to really find what my way in this world at the next chapter of what it is. And maybe that will be rewriting my definition of purpose at one point in time, right? To whatever the evolution of that is in the next chapter as I look towards the age of 50 in the next 4 years. And what does that look like? And what do I want to give to society and the world moving forward? And those are in some of my definitions of purpose now, but really maybe taking that to another level. So I am excited about what that looks like. And, and when doing these types of things, what can I give back to a lot of people who have done things for me? Not that I have all the answers by any means, just sharing my experiences. That's all I can do.
Well, your experience is sharing loads of wisdom. So Aaron, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing honestly and vulnerably. I am deeply impacted by it, and I know our audience will as well. So it has been a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me today. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Founders, thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and hop into our monthly founder email so we can ensure you stay on the edge of peak performance and massive business results.